Hey guys, hope you're doing well. So today's video is a response to all the folks who always ask for tutorials on how I make the different Kusudama chains that I do. I know I have a tutorial on how to make the individual rose units, but in terms of making the actual chain, it's a little bit more of an involved process, I guess you could say, from the design perspective and then the assembly perspective. And so I figured I'd do a video or multiple videos, kind of explaining how I do each of the different steps and just kind of showing you guys what I do. So it all starts with an idea, right? And for this one, I'm actually going to be doing the phases of the moon, from new moon, through to full moon and then back to new moon again. I think that'd be a really cool idea, especially around Halloween. I think those kind of spooky, moon vibes are kind of cool. So I'm kind of into it. So we'll be doing, first thing I decide is how many pieces I'm going to actually be making, individual pieces. So it'll be 9 total Kusudamas to go from, like I said, new moon to full moon to new moon again. And so I'll need 9 pieces of paper, with each one of these pieces of paper corresponding to 1 Kusudama. I have 3 here and 6 more over here. So what I'll start doing is, in kind of groups of 3, I'll start cutting the paper. And what I do is I use my paper cutter here to do so. I used to cut all my paper by hand, but it took a long time to cut each individual piece of paper by hand into the size I need. And so each of these pieces of paper will turn into 32 little individual rectangles, which I'll then fold into units. And so it'll be 9 times 32. You could do the math there, but basically I use my paper cutter to expedite this process by, I don't know, like a factor of 5 to 10, which is kind of cool. So I'll start, I know each of these pieces of paper, for example, are 15 centimeters by 15 centimeters, just because I've worked with this paper a ton, and a lot of standard origami paper is around that size. And so I'll start by lining it up at 7.5 centimeters. And so when I cut like that, I get pieces like this that are 7.5 by 15 now. And the idea is then I'll just kind of cut all of it down, kind of in kind, until it's the size I need, basically. And so I'll just kind of keep working it right now, but basically then I'll line it up again at 7.5 like here. And it does take some time, and I'll probably speed this part of the video up a little bit, but I'll line it up carefully, kind of like that, and then just cut it again. And you'll see now we have 2 squares here, and we're kind of making good progress. Okay, so now I'll just kind of continue cutting the paper a little bit more, and I'll probably speed this part of the video up, and again, like I said, so that way it's not taking forever. But yeah, I'll just go ahead and kind of cut the rest of the paper, I guess. Yeah. Okay, so now that we've cut the first group of 3, I guess, we actually have to remove some of the pieces. And so each square of paper, like we said here, each one of these squares, it can make 1 entire Kusudama, but it actually yields 32 of these individual squares here, or rectangles here, I guess you could say. And we only need 30 for each one. And so we'll remove 2 from each of the papers that we cut, if that makes sense. 32 minus 2, going to be 30. And so I know we cut 2 black pieces and 1 gray piece here, and so we'll remove 4 black pieces. How many is that? Was that 1? That's 2. Okay. So we'll remove 4 black pieces and 2 of the gray pieces from these, and we'll kind of just discard these. I toss them to like a little Ziploc baggie, just to kind of keep for future, if we ever do a project. But the rest of this is good to fold down. So this will basically yield 2 black Kusudamas and 1 gray Kusudama. And for this piece, I'm going to actually kind of assemble it a little bit differently, not just make all solid colors, which would be kind of cool. Again, I want to kind of show the phases of the moon. But yeah, so that's kind of how I do each cut at a time here. And so as I kind of cut this next piece here, or these next set of 3, if you will, I'll kind of talk about, I guess, how I kind of get inspired by some of this stuff and how I kind of choose the colors of the paper that I do. So for something like this, for the phases of the moon, for example, I mean, it's just black and white, or black and gray in this case, is pretty straightforward. I went with gray because gray seems like more of a moon color than white. personally, but I think white could work just fine. I actually almost thought about doing the full moon itself as white, and so it could have actually worked here, but I decided to do gray just to kind of keep things simple, especially for a video like this. So yeah, so that's kind of how I decided on the color here. But in terms of the idea, I mean, it's just a matter of being inspired by like what's happening like around me, I guess. You know, think about Halloween. I was kind of looking at the other chains, like the black to white one that I've done recently. I thought, hey, you know, from a gradient perspective, that was pretty cool. How we were able to kind of get, you know, black to turn into white, or vice versa, white to turn into black. But the fact that that was like all solid Kusudamas, I thought maybe what if I just like play around with the composition of each Kusudama and instead go for like a moon phase kind of thing, so you kind of show like the, you know, the new moon, you know, waxing crescent, half moon, or I guess quarter moon, I don't know what you can call it, but then like waxing gibbous, then full moon, etc., etc. I thought it could be cool to do something of that nature. And so that's kind of how I got inspired to do this. And then just from there, you know, literally writing out, you know, how many papers of each color are going to be in each Kusudama, and kind of just going from there. And then from there, once you know how many pieces of paper I'll be requiring, then I'll just start choosing the papers and cut them. And so that's kind of where we're at right now. We're at the choose papers and cut stage. But yeah, so basically it's pretty straightforward. Like I said before, I kind of lined it up. I lined up the first one at the 7.5 centimeters mark to cut it in half. And then from there, I'll just keep cutting it in half again and cutting it in half again. And so this next one will be at, I guess, 3.75 centimeters. And I kind of just get close to 4. I mean, I get like pretty close. I'm not going to zoom in to show, but basically I put it like at a tick mark, like right before, around like the 3.75 mark. That way I can easily line it up without having to measure it to 3.75 every single time. I kind of, after doing it a few times, you kind of get a feel for it. And I guess on that similar note, if you guys are interested in getting a paper cutter like this, if you're trying to, you know, actually cut paper in volume, which I guess is something I do, you know, working with all these different Kusudamas. I'll have a link in my description, so if you're actually interested in getting something like this, you can get this one. This one's pretty good. I mean, I got it from Amazon for like 40 bucks. Pretty decent. I'm not sure how much it is now. I think it actually went down in price. That's kind of cool, but TBD on the exact price there. But yeah, okay, so now that I've got them all in squares like this, these are all now 3.75 by 3.75 centimeter squares. We'll cut it again in half, and it's gonna be 1.875 centimeters. And I know it's super precise, but I usually round it up to about 1.9-ish. I kind of just get it close to like the 1.9 tick and just kind of cut it. Again, at that point, you know, tenths of, you know, hundredths of centimeters is not gonna make or break this piece. It's just a matter at this point of kind of getting it as close as possible and just, you know, making it work. I think the best part about this unit, actually, the rose unit, which is my favorite one, is that even if the paper is slightly not perfect, and especially when you're playing the volume game here by making like a ton of these, you know, it allows you to have a little bit of wiggle room, I guess you could say, on the precision of how well you cut these pieces of paper and still make the piece come out pretty good, in my opinion. And so, yeah. But anyway, we'll keep cutting through this paper here, and you can kind of see how this is like the size ultimate that we get to. And at the very end, we'll kind of pull out those units again like I did at the beginning of this part of the video. But we're just about done. And then from there, we'll just do one more group of 3, which I'll probably speed through again. And then we'll just go from there. Cool. Okay, so now we basically ended up with whatever, I guess 30 times 9 is, I guess it's 270, plus like this extra stuff here. The extra stuff that we're gonna put in the Ziploc baggie because it's not being folded into units, at least in these pieces. And so, back down. Anyway, so basically now that we have all 270 pieces, now it's just a matter of folding. I'm not gonna do that in this video because it'll take forever. But basically I can fold like 30 pieces an hour, so about, I guess, a piece every 2 minutes, more or less. And so once I've got all these pieces folded, I'll come back for another video and kind of show you how I assemble things, how to kind of do it in a more advanced way than I guess it is in my original video. Again, you can kind of, I'll link my original video up here, but basically you can see how I fold these units into the different, or these pieces of paper into different units that you'll need to kind of use. And then from there, I'll show you how to assemble it in the next video, and we'll kind of go from there. But basically, this is how I cut paper. This is how I turn those big pieces of origami paper that you probably have lying around into the units that, or into the pieces of paper that we'll be using to kind of fold into the units for the actual Kusudama chain. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If so, leave a like and stuff. And yeah, see you guys next time.